The Friedkin Group have completed their takeover of Everton Football Club. They've done it by purchasing the majority 94.1% shareholding from current owner Farhad Moshiri. It ends an 8.5-year ownership of the Toffees by Moshiri. In this video, we'll look at who the Friedkin Group are and when their interest in Everton began. So who are the Friedkin Group? The Friedkin Group are a privately held consortium of business and investments. Their chairman and CEO is Dan Friedkin. His family also well involved within the group, including his son, Brien. Their companies include 30 West, Toyota Gulf, Imperative Entertainment and AS Roma, amongst others. He's also a movie producer, his latest film being The Killers of the Flower Moon. But perhaps what stands out most about him is his involvement in films, is that he flew the Spitfire in Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. He was a stunt pilot for Tom Hardy, and he even offered up his own vintage aircraft for the movie, including the final scene when he lands the Spitfire on the beach. Before we get further on with how they bought it, let's have a look back at Farhad Moshiri's reign at Everton Football Club. In 2016, Bill Kenwright announced that he had sold 49% of Everton Football Club to Iranian British businessman Farhad Moshiri, with the expectation that Moshiri would eventually become the majority shareholder at Everton Football Club. Moshiri's first act at the club was to sack manager then Roberto Martinez, replacing him with Dutch icon Ronald Koeman, who he brought in from Southampton. Everton then took chief scout and first-team coach Steve Walsh from Leicester City and made him the club's first director of football. And in Moshiri's first summer, he brought in players like Idrissa Gueye, Yannick Bolasie, Martin Stecklenburg and Ashley Williams, as well as Enner Valencia on loan from West Ham. Moshiri then flexed some muscle in the transfer market, and that was a trend that would follow for the early years of his reign. One notable name that came in that summer, apart from Idrissa Gueye, was also Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who arrived from Sheffield United for around £1 million and has gone on to be Everton's number 9 during Moshiri's reign as owner of Everton Football Club. In 2017, Farhad Moshiri had the biggest spend in the transfer market. He spent around £150 million. However, he did recoup around £95 million for the sales of Romelu Lukaku to Manchester United. Moshiri's biggest transfers in and out during his Everton tenure were Gylfi Sigurdsson for around £45 million, and obviously, like we just said, the sale of Lukaku. Moshiri had 8 permanent managers in his time at Everton: Roberto Martinez, Ronald Koeman, Sam Allardyce, Marco Silva, Carlo Ancelotti, Rafa Benitez, Frank Lampard and Sean Dyche. He also had David Unsworth twice and Duncan Ferguson twice taking the team as caretaker manager. Farhad Moshiri introduced the director of football role into Everton Football Club and has overseen 3 of them in his reign: Steve Walsh, Marcel Brands and current one Kevin Thelwell. Moshiri leaves Everton having spent £681 million on players and recouped £525 million, leaving him with a net spend of £155 million. However, the biggest legacy that Moshiri leaves behind at Everton Football Club is the incredible new stadium on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey. It was first mooted in 2022 that Moshiri was looking for investment, and Camp Sports, a group made up of Maciej Kaminski, former Manchester United CEO Peter Kenyon and oil magnate Joe Thornton, were interested in buying Everton Football Club. However, nothing progressed with that group due to them not evidencing they had the funds for the takeover. In December 2022, the then CEO, Denise Barrett-Baxendale, wrote in her programme notes that Everton were close to announcing some fresh investments to help them cover stadium costs. This was again mentioned by Farhad Moshiri when he referenced he was hoping to complete a deal that would bring in world-class expertise in football and finance. In January 2023, it was announced that MSP, the firm run by US billionaires Jam Nafaji and former sports super agent Jeff Morad, had been in talks with Moshiri since the turn of the year, and Najafi, Morad and MSP Vice President Peter Taylor were all in attendance for the Southampton game at Goodison Park in January. Ironically, none of the Everton board attended the game, which ended in a 2-1 defeat for the Toffees. MSP were the sole owners of Spanish third-tier club Alcoran, who are based in Madrid, while they also have invested in Belgian side Wasland, Beveren, Portugal club Estoril, Brien and German Bundesliga outfit Augsburg. Outside of football, they also had shares in McLaren Racing. MSP reportedly agreed a 25% stake in Everton Football Club for around £150 million of investment. It's important at this stage to note that another US firm, 777, were also trying to get in on the negotiations, but Moshiri chose MSP as his preferred choice. In May 2023, Farhad Moshiri entered into a period of exclusivity with MSP and they began their due diligence on the Toffee's financial state. MSP signed an exclusivity deal in May over a proposed £150 million investment that would bring a 25% equity stake. For the first time in the negotiations, full takeover was mentioned in this period, but that was said to be a gradual undertaking. 777 wanted a full takeover too, and they remained in the background. MSP's negotiations with Farhad Moshiri ground to a halt in August 2023 after reports that the deal collapsed because lenders, rights and media funding objected to the deal that Moshiri had done with MSP. That brought 777, the American investment group, back to the fore, and Moshiri agreed the deal to sell them the club in September 23. You're keeping up? I know it's a lot. The sale was expected to be completed by the end of 2023, subject to Premier League, Football Association and Financial Conduct Authority approval. However, this certainly didn't go to plan, with stories of 777 having financial issues at other clubs they owned. The 12-week deadline passed and concerns began to grow, as did the bad news stories about the 777 group. These stories carried on, and as the problems grew, a couple of time extensions were granted for the group to complete the takeover. However, they never got approval and the takeover collapsed. As one door closed, another opened, and the Friedkin Group, who were the owners of AS Roma, stepped forward, which was rather surprising. Others were interested in buying the football club as well, such as US businessman John Textor, an investment group called Vici, and Andy Bell and George Downing, who were two Evertonians. They wanted to buy the club as well. But it was the Friedkin Group that agreed a deal with Moshiri, which included them paying off MSP, which was a condition of the sale, and meant that the Friedkin Group now owned that debt. The £150 million that TFG paid off for MSP for was because when they took the club, they invested that into the football club to complete the stadium, to help with the stadium and also with some running costs. But because nothing's straightforward with Everton, the Friedkin Group pulled out 4 weeks later in July 2024. The main reason given was that there was an issue with a repayment of £200 million that 777 had lent Everton for running costs and stadium during their attempted takeover. But that debt was now owned by ACAP, who were 777 moneylenders, and they wanted repaying straight away, but because there was other complications, were ongoing court case with Leadenhall and other monies owed, it just seemed all a bit too messy for the Friedkin Group and they pulled out. However, there was a feeling that the Friedkin Group hadn't gone away fully, as they previously walked away from buying Roma only to return to complete the purchase. Back to the drawing board then for Farhad Moshiri, and in August, Crystal Palace part owner rather, John Textor came back to the table. He'd been very vocal in wanting Everton. He started it again, even likened it to being asked if he would like to be president of the United States. Textor had an issue though. He needed to sell 45% of his shares in Crystal Palace before he could own Everton Football Club. He made it clear that they were available and maintained the confidence in being able not only to sell his Palace shares but to buy the Toffees. He gave interviews about the club and what he wanted to achieve at Everton, even speaking about Everton Football Club at his other club, Lyon. In a press conference there, he mentioned wanting to buy Everton and what he was intending to do. In September 2024, when it seemed as though Textor had reached a full agreement with Farhad Moshiri and was about to complete on that deal, the Friedkin Group came back to the table and completed a deal with Moshiri in time to thwart Textor's bid, and then the sale process began. Finally, 2.5 years after the Kaminsky Group wanted to buy Everton, 18 months after MSP wanted to purchase a stake, and 15 months after 777 agreed a deal to buy the football club, Dan Friedkin and the Friedkin Group are now the new owners of Everton Football Club. Now they own the club, the responsibility is to make Everton more competitive both on and off the pitch. For too long, Everton Football Club have been treading water, in a state of limbo, if you like. But now with new owners and the new stadium ready to go next season, there's a genuine chance for a fresh start at Everton Football Club, and the owners simply have to deliver. There'll be many changes now at the football club, and they'll start to happen almost immediately. So we're in for a very interesting time in the months ahead, that is for sure. What they have to do, and this is something that Farhad Moshiri they can grasp, is get their own people in and start running the football club to their standards, I guess. Helping people who are at the football club reach their full potential, bringing in fresh blood and giving Everton Football Club a new direction to go in. They have to give us, the fans, something to believe in. Wish them the best of luck. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be bumpy at times, but let's hope it's a far more successful reign than the last owners. And let's hope it's not too long that before we can end that long wait for a trophy. Listen, I'm going all in. Let's go and win the lot. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, do all of that stuff. See you later.